What are we seeing in enterprises as they look at modernising their networks? Essentially, there's three reasons for modernising the approaches to networking in a business. The first is that business needs are always evolving and changing, so there's always a driver for making sure that your networks and networking practices are capable of picking up the latest in adoptions to support the industry. The second is a focus on new technology, so there's always another generation of technology coming along that can be used to innovate inside the business. But the third of those, a focus on the refreshment opportunities inside the organisation, focuses on not just updating technologies but the management of the way that you source networking. So we're seeing new suppliers, new methodologies, and that's what we need to think about when we're looking at refreshing enterprise networking. So we're not actually seeing faster cycles for technology refresh. In fact, the opposite's the problem. Most organisations have been somewhat very tactical in the way that they deploy their network infrastructure over the years, and as modernisation initiatives need to be rolled out, we find that there's a really poor infrastructure and quite disparate set of applications that need to be integrated onto the infrastructure. So the problem is that there's no long-term planning perspectives, there's very few methodologies being used out there, and if we look at the subject of network modernisation, it's really a function of mindset, of philosophy as an approach, rather than just the replacement, one-for-one replacement of particular technologies. Well, the suppliers that are going to have the biggest impact as we see a stronger trend towards network modernisation in networking are going to come from two broad areas, almost two parallel worlds. The first of those is the traditional network infrastructure vendors for a business. Players like Cisco, Avaya, Nortel, NEC, those that traditionally provide the data communications and voice and video communications inside a network. They'll do their traditional role. The second world is the IT platform players, so major companies like Microsoft, IBM, SAP, Oracle, who are now all in the process of developing IT communications, so communications coming natively from within their IT platforms. Now, there's going to be a competition of those two worlds, and the interesting competition between those worlds as they partner together and compete against each other is what's going to impact network modernisation very substantially. Okay, so the tactics and strategies that businesses need to focus on as they're contemplating network modernisation are essentially in two parts. It's one, to have a sense of methodology, and two, to have a longer term, more purposeful approach to this rather than the tactical responses of recent times. So when it comes to the methodologies, there's a number of things that need to be done, and in Gartner's advice to our clients we work through those in some detail. But the sense of methodology starts with really high level issues like what's the framework of governance, what's the standard operating environment inside your organisation for IT, and how do you change that as you deploy various generations of technology. So between the use of methodology and a longer term planning perspective, we'll see effective modernisation of networking in most businesses. Network modernisation in Asia is distinctively different from some other regions in the world. Actually, although it's different, it also has similar outcomes to what we see in other places like North America, where there's been this very focused approach to looking at quarterly returns, so a lot of short-term planning and short-term tactical activities in corporate life. Now in Asia, we don't see the same focus on the share market driving short-termism, but the relationship that many companies have with their vendors is quite different. In Asia, we see more aggressive deployment of infrastructure as it's offered from the vendors, and less critical choice of the vendor solutions, particularly the suitability of the vendor solutions in the particular context of a business. So in China, Greater China, particularly Hong Kong, it's something that we do see. There's a lot of short-term thinking, a lot of short-term adoption particularly, which needs to be thought through if you're going to have best practices in enterprise network modernisation.